The Emperium, a crystal of light resting in Walden Keep. For centuries, kings claimed it bound land and people. Whoever held it ruled. But the Emperium was never free. Guilds fought for it. They bled for it, and none held it forever. From the south came Blackthorn. No banners, no songs, no history, only steel. Their leader, Karesh, was a soldier with no home. Raiders burned his village. He buried his family with his own hands. From that day he swore, never again. To him, the Emperium was not power, it was survival. In the north stood Frosthelm, a fortress carved into stone. Their leader, Cirrus, ruled with iron law. To her, the Emperium was not survival, it was order. Without it, the land would fall to chaos. At dawn, the war began. No horns, no drums, no speeches. Only fire against gates, steel against shields, wizards filling the sky with thunder. Courtyards drowned in blood. Stairs became graves. Each step toward the crystal cost lives. Karesh reached the chamber, his armor broken, his arm heavy with wounds, yet he stood. Cirrus waited, her helm gone, her eyes burned. You think it is yours. It belongs to those strong enough to hold it. Blades clashed, sparks lit the walls, minutes stretched like hours, neither yielded, until Cirrus faltered. Karesh struck, she fell. The Emperium pulsed with light. Karesh placed his hand upon it. His guild knelt. The war was over. But Karesh did not smile. Around him lay ash, bodies, ruin. The crystal had chosen him, but it demanded a price. Weeks passed. Walden Keep stood rebuilt. Farmers worked, merchants traded, guards patrolled. Peace returned. Yet Karesh never left the chamber. Each night he sat before the crystal, watching, waiting, because he knew the Emperium was no shield. It was a beacon, and a beacon always drew hunger.
Years passed. Walden Keep lived under Blackthorn's rule. Farmers sowed the fields, merchants filled the markets, guards walked the walls. Peace seemed real, but the Emperium never sleeps. Its light calls, and its call was answered. From the east rose the Crimson Banner, a guild forged in fire. They were conquerors, not protectors. They marched not to guard, but to claim. At their head rode Lord Vanar, a warlord who built his throne on the bones of rivals. To him, strength was not survival. Strength was dominion. They came with drums that shook the earth, with banners soaked in red, with armies that moved like storms. Karesh stood on the walls of Walden Keep, his hair streaked with gray, his sword dulled with age. He had held the Emperium for years, but he knew its curse. Another war had come. Blackthorn gathered at his side, men and women who had bled with him since the First War. They saw the endless sea of crimson stretching across the horizon, and they knew few would live to see dawn. The clash came swift. Drums roared, arrows darkened the sky. The ground shook beneath armored beasts and war engines. Steel shattered, shields broke, magic tore the air apart. The walls of Walden Keep shook with fire and blood. Kale fought in the gatehouse, each strike slower than the last, each wound heavier. But still, he stood. "You hold the crystal, old man, but the Emperium belongs to the strong, and I am stronger. Strength is not domination. Strength is endurance." Their blades met. Vanar struck with fury. Kale held with grit. The chamber shook with each blow. Kale faltered. His knees bent. His sword split. Vanar raised his blade for the killing strike. But Blackthorn stood. One by one, they leapt between Kale and death. Farmers with broken spears, mercenaries with cracked shields. Each fell. Each bought a heartbeat more. Kale rose again. With the last of his strength, he drove his broken sword through Vanar's chest. The warlord fell. The crimson banner shattered. Walden Keep stood, but its walls were soaked in blood. Kale lived, yet half his guild lay silent. The Emperium still glowed, unbroken, unyielding, but Kale saw its truth. Not all wars begin with drums. Some begin with silence. Years had passed since the crimson banner fell. Walden Keep stood scarred but alive. Kale ruled, older, slower, burdened. His guild rebuilt the walls, buried the dead, and waited for peace. But peace never came. The Emperium glowed, and its glow drew shadows. From the west crept the silent veil. No armies, no banners, only whispers, only knives. Their leader, Nissa, was not a warlord. She was an assassin, raised in shadows, fed on betrayal. Her guild lived unseen. They did not march. They did not shout. They slipped through cracks and bled kingdoms dry. One by one, Blackthorn's guards fell, poison in their cups, daggers in their backs. No battles, no fire, only silence. Kale felt the keep closing in on him. Each night more allies vanished. Each morning more bodies were found. The war was not fought in the courtyard. It was fought in the dark, and Kale was blind. Nissa struck at night. Her blades flashed in the chamber. Kale fought with trembling hands, his breath ragged. The Emperium glowed behind him, its light spilling over the fight. You defend it, old man, yet it is the crystal that kills you. It calls us, it feeds us, it will never let you rest. Then I will endure.
even in the dark. Steel rang, blades scraped stone. Nissa struck swift as a shadow. Kale held, each swing weaker than the last. Blood marked the floor. At last, Kale faltered. Nissa's dagger found its mark. The old warrior fell before the crystal he had sworn to protect. The Emperium glowed. Its light washed over Kale's still body, and in that glow, Nissa smiled. The silent veil claimed the crystal. Valden Keep fell into shadows. The age of Kale ended, and the Emperium waited for the next hand to bleed for it. The crystal was not peace. It was war without end, and its light would call again. Kale was gone. The halls of Valden Keep, once filled with Blackthorn's banners, lay drowned in shadow. The silent veil ruled from the dark. The Emperium glowed in silence, feeding the whispers of fear. But shadows never last forever. From the villages, from the mines, from the broken fields, a new fire rose. They were not nobles, not knights. They were laborers, smiths, farmers, men and women crushed beneath the silent veil's blades, and they rose not as a guild, but as a rebellion. At their head stood Aric, a blacksmith's son. He had no title, no training, no wealth, but he carried Kale's broken sword, passed down by survivors of Blackthorn, and with it he carried a vow: the Emperium belongs not to shadows, not to warlords, it belongs to the people.
Nyssa watched from the walls. Her assassins moved like smoke, slipping through alleys, cutting throats in silence. She thought the rebellion would break in days, but it did not. Every death brought two more to the cause. The silent veil struck in shadows. The rebellion struck in the open. Day after day, street after street, the keep became a battlefield of light and dark. Aric fought with rage. His hammer shattered steel. His voice carried hope. And with every clash, he carved a path to the chamber. There, Nyssa waited, blades drawn, eyes cold. The Emperium glowed between them. You fight for people who will forget you. The crystal calls only to the strong, and strength is silence. No, strength is the voice of the many, and tonight they speak through me. Steel and iron clashed. Nyssa moved like a shadow. Aric struck like a storm. Her daggers cut flesh. His hammer broke stone. The chamber shook with fury. At last, Aric caught her. One strike crushed her blades. Another sent her to the ground. Nyssa fell in silence. The shadow ended. Aric pressed Kael's broken sword against the Emperium. Light surged through the hall. The silent veil was gone. The rebellion had won. The people cheered. The banners of Blackthorn were gone. The veil was scattered. In their place rose a new mark, the Iron Rebellion. But Aric knew the truth. The Emperium never rests. Its glow would call again, and someone, somewhere, was already marching toward Valden Keep. Years had passed since the fall of the Silent Veil. Valden Keep rose from ruin. Under Aric and the Iron Rebellion, The people lived, worked, and hoped. For the first time in decades, the crystal was not fought over. But the Emperium never sleeps. Its glow does not fade, and its light reached farther than Valden's walls. From the north rode the kingdom of Elira, a nation older than guilds, older than rebellions. Her queen, Elira, the silver crown, marched with banners of white and steel. She did not come as a conqueror. She came as a claimant. To her, the Emperium was not a prize of war. It was sacred, a relic born of her bloodline. Her ancestors had ruled with its blessing, and she would take it back. Her army did not burn fields. They did not sack villages. They marched with hymns, their voices raised to the skies. They carried swords, but also scripture. The people of Valden watched from their walls. Some bowed their heads at the songs of faith. Some whispered that perhaps the queen was right. Perhaps the crystal never belonged to them at all. Aric stood in the chamber, Kael's broken sword at his side. The Emperium glowed, as if listening. And for the first time, Aric felt not war's fury, but doubt. If this is truly her bloodline's relic, if it never was ours, do we defend it still? Or do we surrender peace for the sake of pride? Yield, Aric of the rebellion. You fought for survival. You fought for your people. But this light was never yours to hold. Lay down your arms. Let Elira guard what is sacred. The chamber held its breath. The Emperium glowed, and in its glow, Aric's face hardened. No, the crystal may not be mine, but the blood shed for it is. If you want it, Queen of Crowns, then take it from the hands of those who will not bow. The siege began. Elira's armies encircled Valden. Their songs turned to battle cries. Their steel clashed against the walls. Arrows filled the sky. Flames roared from the towers. Every street, every gate, every stone was painted with war. Inside the keep, Aric held the lines, hammer against sword, faith against rebellion.
Every hour brought another heartbeat for Valden. The silver crown pressed on, her faith unbroken, her armies endless, and the Emperium glowed brighter still, as if waiting for the next hand to bleed for it. The siege of Elira raged. Valden's walls trembled. Aric's rebellion held, but barely. Each day, the queen's banners rose higher. Each night, her hymns echoed against stone. But the Emperium's glow was never for one alone. Its call reached farther still. From the south came the Golden Host, a tide of steel and fire. Their emperor Karesh rode at the head of legions without number. Cities fell before him like wheat before the scythe. His throne was carved from conquest, his crown from the bones of kings. To Karesh, the Emperium was no relic. It was no sacred bond. It was the final jewel of his empire, the last light not yet bent beneath his will. The Golden Host marched not with hymns, not with whispers, but with fire. Towers collapsed, villages burned, the ground shook with engines of war. Armies of gold and black filled the horizon, and for the first time in centuries, Elira and Velden both looked outward. Their war paused, their banners still raised, because before them came a tide neither could ignore. On the walls of Velden, Aric stood bloodied but unbroken. At his side, Queen Elira, her silver crown dulled with ash. Enemies by right, yet allies by doom. We are not friends, but if we stand apart, we are ash before nightfall. Then for this day we stand together. For this day the Emperium must not fall. The golden host struck. Their engines roared. Their soldiers swarmed. The walls of Velden shook as gold met stone. Rebellion fought with fury. Elira fought with faith. Side by side they held the gates. Side by side they bled. But the host was endless. For every soldier cut down, 10 more rose. The fields burned, the rivers turned red, and still the Emperium glowed. How long? Before even stone gives way. The golden host did not stop. They would not stop. And as Velden's walls cracked, the crystal's light pulsed brighter than ever before. A storm was coming, and its name was Karesh. Velden Heap was breaking. Its walls, once unshaken, now cracked. The fires of the golden host lit the night sky, and the songs of Elira were drowned by the thunder of war. The rebellion was weary, the crown was cornered, and the Emperium glowed brighter than ever, as if it knew the end had come. Aric stood with Kael's broken sword. Beside him, Queen Elira gripped her silver crown, bent but unbroken. Enemies by birth, allies by doom. The golden host stormed the gates. Engines roared, steel clashed, stone crumbled. The last wall shuddered beneath their fury. On the battlefield, blood and faith mixed. Rebels and royal soldiers fought side by side, every step bought with lives, every heartbeat won by sacrifice. We hold the line, or we vanish. Then let us vanish as kings. The clash shook Velden. Hammers crushed, swords shattered, magic tore the air apart. The golden host pressed forward, endless, merciless. And then he came, Emperor Karesh, crowned in gold, his eyes burning with conquest. He strode through fire as if it bowed to him. The Emperium was never yours. It was never hers. It belongs to Empire. It belongs to me. Aric and Elira faced him in the crystal chamber. The Emperium glowed between them, brighter than 1,000 suns. Its light shook the stones as if warning what was to come. Steel rang against steel, hammer against blade, crown against empire. The clash shook with fury. But Karesh was strength without end. Aric staggered, Elira bled. The golden emperor's blade rose for the final strike. And then the world broke. The Emperium cracked. For the first time in all of history, its glow shattered into a storm of light. The ground split, walls fell, Fire and silence swallowed Valden Keep. Aric fell to his knees, blinded by the blaze. Elira reached for the crystal, her voice lost in the roar. Karesh laughed as the light consumed him. And then, silence. When the smoke cleared, the Emperium was no longer whole. It lay broken, shards of light scattered across the land. Valden Keep was gone. The age of guilds, of crowns, of rebellions had ended. But the shards remained, and with them, a new war would begin.
Aric's rebellion split. Some cried for destruction, others for salvation. Faith clashed with survival. Elira's silver crown shone with divine fury, her shard burning her flesh. The shards are the path. We do not destroy them. We ascend through them. Then we are no better than Karesh. Armies rose, borders fell, kingdoms cracked, and across the horizon the sky darkened, not with storm, but with war. Aric stood on a cliff, his shard trembling with light. Beneath him the world burned, above him thunder split the sky, and in the silence between heartbeats he spoke. The crystal is no more, but its war has only begun. The shards' war had come. The world bled, villages torn apart, cities ruled by fear. Shardbearers rose like kings, each crowned in stolen light. What began as survival had become a hunger. What began as hope had become war. Aric walked among the ruins, his shard hidden close to his chest. He had sworn to protect it, sworn to guard the shards from corruption, but his oath wavered. For every ally gained, another demanded its power, and for every life saved, another was lost to the shard's call. If I keep it, they die. If I use it, I become them. Across the land, Queen Elira rose again, her silver crown reforged, a shard blazing at its center. Her armies marched beneath banners of faith, her name spoken as divine. Villagers followed her, soldiers knelt before her, and in her shard's light, many found hope. The shards are blessings. The gods chose us to carry them. Through me, the world will rise anew. But her blessing came with a cost. Her flesh burned beneath the crown. Her eyes glowed with fevered light. Her faith consumed her, even as her people called her chosen. Aric came to her gates, once allies, once bound by survival, now divided by belief. You worship what destroys us. You raise a crown of fire, and the world will burn for it. Better the fire of gods than the chains of Karesh. Between them, the broken oath of Valden lay in ash. No rebellion, no crown, only shards, and the war they birthed. Yet whispers spread across the land, of riders cloaked in gold, of shadows that did not die in the crystal's light. Karesh's agents, shardbearers bent by his will. Villages fell without warning, cities turned silent overnight, and on the horizon the storm gathered.
Aric's oath was broken. Elira's faith consumed her, and Karesh, the shards did not rest. They burned, they spread, they remade the world in their image. In the north, Queen Elira's faith rose into a kingdom. Villagers swore to her, armies knelt at her feet. Her shard blazed within her crown, a beacon seen for miles. To her followers, she was chosen. To her enemies, a zealot crowned in fire. But the crown was no gift. Its light burned her flesh. Its power drained her soul. Yet she wore it still, smiling through the pain. If I must bleed, I will bleed as a queen. Through the shards the world will be reborn. Aric's rebellion fractured. Some clung to his oath of destruction. Others followed Elira, swayed by faith and promise. Friends became rivals. Allies became enemies. She calls it salvation, but I see only chains. Then Karesh returned. The Golden Emperor did not hide in shadow. He strode across battlefields, his shard burning brighter than all others. It bent lesser shards to his will. It twisted those who bore them. Even from miles away, its pull could be felt. All shards are mine. They will bend to empire, or they will shatter in my grasp. Elira called for a holy war. Her armies rallied in faith, chanting her name. Her burning crown gleamed like a sun. Aric stood apart, torn between two paths. Fight Karesh with Elira's fire, or stand against them both. The land shook with marching armies. The air burned with shards colliding. Every step brought the world closer to its breaking. Elira's crown blazed, Karesh's shard consumed, and Aric stood in the middle, bound not by faith, not by empire, but by the weight of a choice that could end them all. The world bent beneath the shards. Mountains split, seas boiled, the sky cracked with storms of light.
And at the heart of it all, Karesh, the Golden Emperor, crowned not in gold but in fire. In his hand burned the heart shard, brighter than sun, darker than night. Armies gathered in his shadow. Shardbearers fell beneath his gaze, their fragments pulled to his will. Each piece of the broken Emperium called to him, each piece bent toward him. The crystal was reforming in him. Aric marched through ash. Elira rode at the head of her armies, enemies by faith, yet bound by one truth. If Karesh claimed the heart, all was lost. We end him here, or we end forever. Then let it end with me. The clash tore the earth. Shardbearers raged, their power lighting the battlefield like stars. Elira's burning crown seared the sky. Aric's blade struck with desperate fury. Karesh stood unbroken, his laughter echoing through the storm. You are fragments, I am the whole. Bow and be remade. Elira fell to her knees, her crown burning her flesh. Aric stood alone before Karesh, his shard trembling in his palm. The choice was clear. To save the world, he would have to break it once more. No empire, no crown, no crystal. Aric shattered his shard. The battlefield exploded in light. Karesh staggered, his heart shard screaming as its power cracked.
The shockwave consumed armies, burned banners, split stone. The world held its breath. Karesh fell, but not destroyed. His body shattered into shadow, his laughter fading into the wind. The heart shard slipped into darkness, carried away, unseen. Elira's crown lay broken beside her. Aric, scarred and broken, stood in silence. The Emperium was no more, its shards scattered once again. The war was not ended, it had only changed shape. Karesh lived in shadow. The shards burned brighter than ever, and the world would never heal. The war ended in fire. Valden burned. The Emperium shattered once more, and the world never healed. Years passed. Kingdoms fell silent. Cities stood as broken shells. Shards lay scattered across the land, glowing in the hands of those desperate enough to claim them. Some became tyrants, some saviors, most monsters. The shards did not choose the worthy, they only fed. Aric walked the ruins, his body scarred, his heart heavier than steel. He carried no banners, no crown, no army, only his blade and the memory of fire. Where he found shards, he broke them. Where he found bearers, he fought them. But the world was too vast, too broken. Everywhere he went, another shard was already burning. Whispers filled the taverns. Shard hunters roamed the wilds. Men and women who killed for fragments, selling their light like coin. In their wake, villages bled, fires spread. The wounded world bled deeper. And yet, hope clung to silence. A farmer hiding a shard to feed his starving kin. A healer using one to save the dying. A child clutching a fragment in the dark, praying for dawn. But dawn never came, not truly. For shadows were moving across the horizon. Villages vanished in silence. Shards blackened in bearers' hands. And in the cold of night, a name whispered again. Karesh. The Golden Emperor was gone, yet his shadow walked, and the world, already broken, trembled once more. The world thought Karesh was dead, but death did not hold him. From the edges of the earth, shadows spread. Shards blackened in their bearers' hands. The light turned against them. Flesh burned, souls twisted. And from their screams, the first shadow bearers were born. Villages vanished overnight. No fire, no battle, only silence. And in the silence, whispers of a voice too old, too cruel to be forgotten. You are fragments, I am whole. Come to me. Aric followed the trail. He saw fields turn to ash, children crying where no houses stood. The mark of Karesh's hand burned into stone and sky. And then she returned. Elira. Her crown was gone, her body scarred, burned by fire that once made her queen. She walked veiled, her face hidden, her steps unsteady, but her voice still carried iron. You think the war is over? Karesh lives, not in flesh, but in shadow. Every shard bends to him, every bearer is his vessel. He is gathering, Aric, and when he is whole, nothing will remain. For the first time since Valden, Aric felt fear, not for himself, for the world. The shards were no longer weapons, they were doors, and through them Karesh was returning. The veil had lifted, the shadow had come, and the world would burn again. The sun was gone. In its place hung the black sun, a wound in the sky, a shadow that bled across every horizon. Kingdoms crumbled beneath its gaze, fields turned to ash, rivers dried, the songs of men fell silent. But in the silence, voices still rose, broken, weary, but unyielding, the last sparks of a dying fire. Aric walked among them, a soldier without banners, a leader without a crown. The weight of a war unending pressed on his scarred shoulders. And yet, wherever he stood, the broken gathered. Farmers with rusted blades, children who had seen too much, hunters, thieves, and kings with no thrones. Together, they became more than survivors. They became the last resistance. We have no empires left, no thrones, no cities, only each other. And while breath remains in us, we will not kneel. Their march began, through ruins where banners once flew, through valleys blackened by shadow flame, through silence heavy with ghosts.
And when the shadow came for them, they did not scatter. They stood, ash on their faces, iron in their hands. We fight not for crowns, not for shards. We fight because we are all that remains. And if the world ends, it ends on our feet. Their blades struck like thunder. Their cries tore the silence. Against the shadow, they carved their stand. The resistance did not win glory. They did not win land, but they endured. In endurance, there was hope. Ash and iron, that was all they had. And for now, it was enough. The resistance marched through fire. They bled. They buried. Yet for the first time since the black sun rose, they won. A fortress of shadow fell. Its corrupted shards shattered beneath their blades. The sky cleared for a single hour, and in that fleeting light, hope returned. Around the campfires, men sang again. Children laughed. The broken dared to believe the world could be theirs once more. But hope is fragile, and in the shadows of their victory, betrayal stirred. Something is wrong. The shards are vanishing. Someone is taking them. He was right. A commander of the resistance, sworn by oath, sold them all, for dominion, for shards, for power. Why fight a war we cannot win? Karesh will rule. Better to kneel than to burn. The betrayal split them. Brother turned on brother. Shards once carried in defiance were dragged into shadow. The resistance bled from within. You broke your oath. You doomed us all. And for the first time, the last resistance felt smaller than the shadow it defied. Victory turned to ash, hope to silence, and the broken oath carved the resistance deeper into ruin. The resistance was bleeding, not from shadow, from within. The oath was broken, trust shattered, and silence spread through their camp like death. In that silence, a voice rose, not Karesh, not shadow, but the past. Queen, your people live, scattered, starving, they beg for your crown. My crown is ash, my throne is ruin. Yet you still lead, you still command. You were born to rule. Will you turn from us again? The words cut deeper than blades.
Elira faltered, her scars burned, the weight of what she lost pressed upon her like stone. Your crown is gone, Elira. The world does not need thrones. It needs fighters. It needs you. But doubt lingered. Every whisper in the camp spoke of queens, of thrones, of crowns once broken. And in the shadow of their doubt, Karesh moved. Their generals marched, shadow-bearers born of blackened shards. Their power drowned cities, their banners of flame and ash smothered the horizon, and the resistance fell again, broken on the field. In the ruins of an ancient temple, Aric found the truth. The Emperium was not gone, not scattered, not lost. It was reforming, not in stone, not in crystal, but inside Karesh. The black sun swelled in the sky. Its shadow stretched across oceans, across mountains, across every last refuge of man. The world had no dawn, only Karesh.
His generals marched. Cities fell silent. Shards bent in fear. And in the ruins of every battlefield, one truth spread. The Golden Emperor had returned. Aric carried the truth like a blade in his chest. Karesh was not only king, not only shadow. He was the Emperium itself, reforging within his body, fragment by fragment. Every battle lost, every shard stolen, brought him closer to wholeness. If we do nothing, he will become the world. Then we march, not for thrones, not for crowns, for the last breath of freedom. And so they gathered, hunters, children with rusted swords, kings without kingdoms, the broken, the outcast, the forgotten. They came not as armies, but as the last defiance of man. Their march began toward the horizon, toward the black citadel, toward the throne of living shadow where Karesh waited. The age of fragments is over. I am the whole. I am forever. His voice shook the sky. The black sun pulsed, devouring stars. The ground itself trembled beneath his throne. The storm had gathered. The last march had begun, and in its path waited the end of all things.